Yitzchok, the Yud stands for Yitzchok, and Yaakov. The Resh of Yud stands for Rachel. The four wheels of the chariot of God. Mothers of the Jewish people. Second day of Yom Chodesh, which is the first day of Iyar, happens to be the birthday of my father. Blessed memory. The day after that day is to say tonight, we're going to count Malchus of the world. Tomorrow, the second day of Rosh Chodesh, we're going to count Chesed of Tiferes. Tiferes is beauty and truth. Chesed is kindness. Morning. Good morning. I want to see somebody with milk. Thank you so much. Okay.
Here's an extra. I miscounted.
Yeah, good. That's fine. Some people like the unfolded ones. So Tiferes, Chesed of Tiferes is a kindly, beautiful approach to life. Kindness, Tiferes stands for truth and beauty. Oh, it says they're the same thing. If it's true, it's beautiful. If it's not true, it's ugly. Tiferes stands for, it's the third of the three midas. If the first is Chesed, that's Abraham. The second is Yitzchak, that's Yitzchak, that's strength, discipline, boundaries, knowing how far you can go and how far you can't go. The third midah, Tiferes, is the blend of the two of them. So that goes on Yaakov. That's the idea of Tiferes, the blend. The blending together. Unity. Okay. So Yaakov's, Abraham's major quality is kindness. He drew people to truth through kindness. By giving them, giving. And Yitzchak was the opposite. He brought people to discover the truth within themselves through digging into them, going deep. Yitzchak is depth, strength. And Yaakov is the blend. The beautiful blend of both of them. That's Tiferes. In Tiferes, we have Chesed. That's the first day. And the second day is Gevurah of Tiferes. Gevurah means getting it done. Finishing off the conflict. Getting rid of the opposition. Tiferes is peace. Tiferes is beauty. Everything smooth. So the third day in the week of Tiferes is called Tiferes in the week of Tiferes. How much better can you get? That's the birthday of the Rebbe Maharash, the fourth Rebbe Shmuel. And therefore his motto was just do it. Just do it, it's going to be good. It's all good. From the very beginning, he had many physical disabilities, which he overcame. We learned about him Rosh Hashanah Hadar, the morning. She's on
Good morning.
Say hello, everybody. Shoshana. She's in the corner there. She's really in the corner there. Can you do that for me? Thank you. We learned about him in Bossi Lagani. He just did things in a wonderful way. Everything in his life was sort of miraculous. One time, he said to his attendants, to his secretaries, pack your bag, we're going to Paris from Lubavitch. It's a long way to Paris. It's a several days' journey. He knew his life was not for long. He wasn't all that well. I think he only lived 52 years. So for him to take off a whole week from davening and learning, serving the Jewish people, was a big sacrifice. Why did they go to Paris? Nobody knew. They went to Paris. They checked everything he did was in royal style, royal. He had a carriage with 6 horses and a driver to drive them, and a lot of fine furniture, a lot of gold, china, silver, everything was with splendor. They asked his father, they said, like, why does your son behave on such a high, Hasidim aren't like that. We lead simple lives. He says there are certain sparks in this world that are very, very high. And they are the portion of very lofty souls who can handle them and be mevarer them and bring them into Kedusha. That was his answer. That was the Rebbe Maharash, Rebbe Shmuel. His bris was a week later, obviously. His birthday is going to be next Sunday. So people came from the bris from all over. Family, Rebbeim, Tzemach Tzedek was a tremendous Rebbe. And everything was prepared. The tables were set for the big Suda after the bris. And the Tzemach Tzedek didn't come out. Stayed in his room. An hour, 2 hours. People were getting restless. Said to them, be patient. The bris is going to be soon. Went back into the room. The bris took place 4 o'clock in the afternoon. Very, very late. And then, after that, nobody was nervous. Everybody was happy. His eldest son came to and said, Rebbe, Tati, you called the baby by the name Shmuel. There's no one in our family with that name. Not the Alter Rebbe, not the Middle Rebbe. Who did you name him after the Nub, Shmuel HaNub? He said, no. There's a water carrier in a village called Palutz. You ever heard of that village? Yes, you've heard of it. You were there? I also wasn't there. It's a small city or whatever. He was a water carrier. That's how people got water. Here we turn on the tap. And in those days, you had to pay a water carrier, someone to schlep heavy buckets of water, bring water to you. You want to wash the dishes, you want to take a shower, a bath. No showers, take a bath. You needed to pay somebody to bring you water. He was a water carrier. He said, did you name your child after the Navi, the prophet? Shmuel, Samuel, Shmuel? He says, no, I named him after this water carrier, and we had to wait for his neshama to leave so that the name could go over to, we could name the child after him. So then they understood that this water carrier was a hidden tzaddik. And then he explained this with one sentence, says in the Talmud, Chacham, a wise person, Adif, is better minobi than a prophet. Because the wise person can see deeper things in godliness. The prophet can only see with his eyes, what Hashem reveals to him. But the wise person goes deeper because he has wisdom. With his mind, he goes deeper than what a prophet can see, implying that this hidden tzaddik was greater even than the prophet Shmuel. From the earliest years, he showed brilliance. And I'm sure you've all heard the famous saying that has characterized him, that when most people see a problem, their first thought is, how am I going to deal with this? Any loopholes? How can I get around it? If I can't get around it, maybe I can get under it, find a different approach. Rabbi Shmuel, he just said, I just do it. I just do it. He went into business. Really, he was a tremendous, tremendous scholar, more than all his brothers. He was the youngest of 7, and he was more knowledgeable than all of them because his father, Tzemach Tzedek, paid a lot of attention to him, and he didn't want to make jealousy. We know how terrible jealousy can be amongst brothers, like Joseph, Yosef, and his brothers. They were all jealous of Yosef because Yaakov favored him. So his father didn't want to show any favoritism to Shmuel, but he knew that Shmuel was much greater. So what happened? Actually, he married at a young age, like they all would do, and his wife, whom he loved, fell ill and died. And he was heartbroken. So his father said, better you should sleep near me. And he moved his room in the house to be adjoining the room of the Tzemach Tzedek. And that way, in the middle of the night, nobody would notice. He would go into his father, and they would learn together hundreds of Maimorim that his brothers never heard. So when the Tzemach Tzedek passed on, the older brothers all felt that they should take over, that they should be, one would be the Rebbe, and the others would be leaders in their own community. And they didn't dream of him, but he knew he was meant to be the Rebbe. And he said, because he merited to hear hundreds of Maimorim and secrets of Torah from his father that the others never heard. So we all know from Basi Lagani, when the Rebbe in the Basi Lagani tells a story about the Abbas Yisrael of each of the Rebbeim. Remember? The story he told about the Rebbe Shmuel was that he took this trip to Paris and he checked in at the most expensive hotel, which was for kings and princes and nobility. He spoke French. He told the secretaries they should go to a different hotel. They could stay with him, but they had to sleep elsewhere. It was too expensive for them. And anyway, he made fun of them that they didn't know how to speak French. Then he gets up and, after resting a little bit from the journey, and he goes to the casino. There's a casino. People are playing cards, drinking wine. He goes over, dressed like a Rebbe, with a long coat, hat, and a beard. What's this guy doing? What's this rabbi doing in a casino? Rich young people. And he stands behind the card game and he watches the card game. He watches this one particular man. And then at an intermission, so to speak, a pause in the game when they're shuffling the cards, he steps forward and says to the young man in French, young man, non-Jewish wine is going to confuse your mind and make your heart insensitive. Be a Jew. The young man looked, who's this guy coming from? What's he saying? So he repeated it. He sat down again, and then he stepped back, he sat down. They didn't have elevators. The elevator was just at that point being invented, like in the 1840s, 1850s. And people were coming to Paris to because there was a new building that had never been up before called the Eiffel Tower, Tour Eiffel. And they had an elevator, and they could go up in the elevator and see the whole Paris from a high vantage point. But they didn't have an elevator in this building. They weren't up to that yet. What did they have? They had servants. And if you sat down in a special chair, you were expensive, you were a rich guest, they would pick up the chair and carry you up to your room, your floor, to your room. And that was the chair that the Rebbe Maharash sat down in. And the servants ran over and picked him up, which I think is highly symbolic. Because what was he doing? He was elevating the neshama of that young man, who revealed afterwards it was a rare, lofty neshama that hadn't been in the world for hundreds of years, such a high neshama. And he said, no, put me down. But later in the night, the young man came knocking on the door, and he wanted to see the rabbi. And the secretaries didn't know who he was. They wanted to let him in. He looked less like, The Rebbe heard the scuffle taking place. He came to let him in. And they spoke till wee hours of the morning. And he rescued him. He became Shomer Torah and Mitzvahs, and established an outstanding family of Yerushalayim in France. This is a story the Rebbe told on the first day of his leadership about the Rebbe Maharash. Okay, chapter 20. I'm not saying if we say chapter 20 before you learn, then the learning is better. If you tell a Hasidic Shemaisa before you learn, then the learning is better. Lam not say I'm the young trying to send up a Isha has a lot of credit to be something Sadeka. He's got from the place of the last Sella. He can allow you know that the Muhammad was being mollied. The running of Bishop myself, Bishop Malay, and Molly had a commission on Sefal. After I like thinking she and the Shiva, we should be conscious of the boy and she will be in name. Hail randomly associated. Not with the Shiva, here. They come with cavalry and with infantry, and chariots, and vehicles, and missiles. We come with the name of God on our lips. Imakaro will not follow, but they fell and didn't get up. But not will come, we rose up, and this idea, and we're standing stalwart. Adonai Yishia Melech Anenu V'Im Karenu, Adonai Yishia Melech Anenu V'Im Karenu. One time, he went to the city of Bells before he was Rebbe. He went to the city of Bells. He wanted to see the tzaddik of Bells, the Bells of Rebbe. He wanted to see how he behaved. When nobody knew who he was, some people asked, "Who are you?" He said, "What are you doing here?" He said, "I'm here on business, so I wanted to see the Rebbe." The Rebbe was almost blind, could barely see. He had to be escorted. Belzer Rebbe came in. He was going to his place. All of a sudden, he stops. He turns to the right, and he walks down the I always imagine this taking place in 770. He walked down past the bleachers, and he stops right in front of the Rebbe Shmuel, and he says, young man, you can't hide from me. Come sit with me at the table." He said, "Rebbe, who is this?" He said he was a businessman. He said, "Yeah, he is a businessman, but you have no clue what he's selling." You have no clue what he is selling. Similar incident happened with our Rebbe when he was a student in Berlin. And it was possible for him to meet the Belzer Rebbe. He went also incognito without revealing to anybody who he was. And the Belzer Rebbe was sitting, he was receiving people who would come over and say, Shalom Rebbe, Shalom Aleichem Rebbe. And he kept a towel around his hands. He didn't want to shake hands with everybody. They could shake their hands through the towel. And when the Rebbe also went by, our Rebbe, he went by. When he went by the Rebbe, the Belzer Rebbe, he took off the towel. The Belzer Rebbe said, they said, Rebbe, where are you going? He says, I'm going, there's an aroma of Gan Eden here. I'm going, that's where I'm going. Okay. Thank you very much, girls, for your help. Let's learn at least a line of Tanya, chapter 13. I see, if I tell you a story, the whole class goes. It flies away. One time he took a walk. He used to take a daily walk. And he sees two men sawing up a big log. Big saw. One on each end. One is above and one is below. He stopped and he says, which position is better? The one on top or the one below? So they said the one below, because he does the work. So the Rebbe Maharaj said, you're wrong. But you could see from the way the saw is cut that all the work is done by the one who's pulling it. He says that's true. But if you don't have the guy on top directing the saw where it should be placed, you never accomplish anything. Work and accomplish nothing. Very interesting statement. All right. So we see by the Beinani that the difference between the Beinani and the Tzaddik is that the Beinani never is able to dispel his Yetzer Hara and get it out of the system. It's always there, returns the whole time. Sometimes it'll take a day off or an hour off, but it's always coming back. It's never eradicated. He never gets rid of it. But he's plagued with it. He's struggling with it this whole time. Remember the story? I've told it now 3 times. Of the chassid who came in the middle of the night to find out how do I get rid of all these Yetzer Hara thoughts that falling every time I go to learn, or especially when I go to daven, all these thoughts come into my head. We sent him to this chassid who would teach him a lesson. He came in the middle of the night, knocked on the door. The chassid didn't open the door. Left him standing out in the rain and the cold. After a few days, the chassid was very upset. He said, why you look so depressed? He says, because I came to learn something and I'm not learning it. I'm not learning anything from you. You're a very nice person. The way you behave is very holy, but I'm not learning anything from you. He said, well, what did you want to learn? He said, I want to learn how to get these thoughts out of my head. Well, I taught you that the minute you arrived, he said. Don't let him in. Don't let the thought in. The Beinani controls his thoughts. The chassid has no negative thoughts. Tzaddik. The tzaddik has no negative thoughts. Period. The Beinani has so many negative thoughts. Sometimes after davening, he wants to bench goimel. Been all around the world. Page 193, a negative thought, evil inclination is a judge, and it states his opinion, what the person should do. It has a negative take on everything. And from the heart, that negative thought goes up to the brain. And once it comes up to the brain, page 193, immediately the second judge, which is the Yetzer Tov, the Yetzer Tov has no negative thoughts. A tzaddik is completely ruled by his Yetzer Tov. The Beinoni is not. The Beinoni has it's just a good influence. And the final verdict is decided by Hashem, who stands on the right side of the poor person to help him overcome. Because otherwise, we would not have the power to overcome the onslaught of the Yetzer Hara. But the Yetzer Hara is never nullified for the good of the divine soul. The divine soul is there, it's arguing, fighting the whole time to keep the person on track, but it's always a fight. Read through about the Rebbe Maharash. Sure, there are many interesting stories there. And if you find yourselves confronted by a challenge, who doesn't find themselves confronted by a challenge every day, every hour? So take the attitude, we learn from the attitude of Rebbe Maharash, just do it. Just do it. Don't worry about being a hypocrite. You're not a hypocrite. You're struggling to do the right thing. Somebody said to the Rebbe, how long did the struggle go on? The Rebbe said, nobody gave you a guarantee when you came into this world that it was going to be easy. Maybe you thought coming to Lubavitch would get easy. It could be fun, but it's not going to. It doesn't get easy. You know, a person likes to hike and do athletics and so on. The more he does, the more challenge he takes on bigger challenges. That's what life is all about. Thank you very much, girls. Thank you for your help. This would take me an hour, a whole hour to do by myself. I wouldn't finish because I would get cramps in my hand. I mean, it's this very special Shabbos. This is the Shabbos connected with Rebbe Maharash. We're entering the month. Every day we have a new blessing to say. We're still saying Mer. Next week is the week of Tiferes. Special week. Hey, hi, everyone.
Rabbi Pape, can we take one for the dorks?
Take two. Take three. Take one for the other class, one for the dorm.
Okay.
Like you said about the song. You go to French here, what do you think?
Okay. Yes, yes, right there. Oh, I need it to tell me over, I need to see my meetings. Here, yeah, can you see the line? Neat. What? I think I forgot something. I was like, can you see that right now? Like, the line right now? Like, you can see it go, right? This, or like this. How many price stockings go? Can you see it right now? No. Okay. For here, so good classes. So those ones that you know. Like you got from experience, I'm curious, it's even like from a normal class. I told you. Not that and yeah, we'll substance that we did it class and thinking about what's going and we're gonna mess with that. And back, good. I said, I'm going to post living ready. Good, come to the mom. That is regular shots. Yeah, that's a regular shot. The suit, and that, right? Если по-нашему и центр, они его наш его центр. Pero интересно, что там не пошло по речи. Много. Посмотреть был следователь. Ну, если мы есть психологом секрета, вот есть конкретно теорию связь. Есть это нравилось что регуляр сам цель была и this is working.